it gives us comfort to know that we are all on this journey together, and we need to stand with each other.
Well, another word, integrity, which is really closely tied to that. I know as one of the subjects that you teach in high school is math.
Yes.
And there's integers, I guess. and so there's really something about being whole.
Yeah, it is. And you know, I'm a man who, I've always said that I want to be remembered as a man who was one who walked with integrity. And that's the legacy that I want to live. That's the legacy that I want to leave. And you know, what does that mean? And you know, I know I've said it again, but I think it comes back to being honest about where you are, not trying to have this mask on that says you have it all together, and being willing to walk with other people around you through this process of purity. You know, being willing to say to you, you know, I'm really struggling with this today. Can you pray for me? And you likewise being able to say that to me, to have that relationship with each other. That's where integrity gets fostered. You know, I commented in the book that I want to be a man of integrity, but sometimes I feel more like Satan's worm than God's child. And you know, I think so often we do feel like we've missed the mark. And I always felt that integrity meant that I never sinned, or integrity meant that, you know, I was always walking a line of truth, and I never stumbled. And it always bothered me because I always felt like I could never attain integrity. But, you know, I'm starting to realize that integrity comes more from the honest journey, and being willing to say to those close around you, okay, you know, I'm really struggling with this. I need your help. I need your prayers. And being able to say that to God as well. You know, that's where integrity gets fostered.
Well, we know we're in a battle. You know, there's no doubt that there are opposing forces in the world that are vying for our very soul.
Yeah.
And so you talk about a battleground, and where is this battleground fought?
That is actually a big portion of this book is looking at the battles that we face. And I think there's two main levels of battles. The first is in our thought process. You know, it says in Corinthians to take every thought captive. And I think that we often, we get caught in the next battleground. And the next battleground is our actions, our habits that we are faced with day in and day out. And I think oftentimes we struggle on this road of purity because we're focused more on the battleground of our actions than the battleground of our thoughts. There's an old parable that Henry Nouwen talked of, where it talks of brothers going out to create something. One brother could create the bone, and another brother could put skin on the bone, and another brother could put limbs on the skin, and then another brother could give life to the animals. So they all went into the rainforest to prove that they could do all of this, and they found a bone, and it happened to be a lion's bone. And so they all did their thing, and they suddenly together created this lion. And the parable ends with the lion devouring the four of them and going contently off into the rainforest. And you know, I think our thoughts is that exact same thing. By allowing certain thoughts into our mind, we are starting a process that is a lot harder to stop halfway down that train. You know, our thoughts then turn into desires, and our desires then turn into actions. Our actions then turn into habits, and our habits will then turn into a lifestyle. And we often try and stop that process at our actions when it's so much harder to stop there than going right back to the beginning and starting that process at our thoughts. I think our thought patterns, you know, and a lot of people get caught up in the fact that, you know, they have a temptation or they have a wrong thought and they think they've already sinned. Thoughts will come at us all the time from every direction possible. The thought in and of itself is not a sin, but then it's what we do with that thought. You know, do we do the checklist of Philippians 4:8? You know, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is holy. Do we make sure our thoughts are lining up to that checklist before we allow them to be stored into our mind? And you know, that is every second of everyday battle.
Right.
But I firmly believe that if we can start there, and if we can, you know, people look at purity and they think, well, this is a hopeless case. I'm never going to attain this. God's not asking us to attain it while we're on this life. God is asking us to start somewhere, and you'll never get somewhere unless you take a step in that direction. And I firmly believe that our thought patterns is one of those first steps that we need to take.
Well, just as we close off here, Peter, time has gone by much too quickly, but maybe you could talk to someone who's just wanting to move into that first step of the journey. How could you encourage someone?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first thing I would say is, please know that you're not alone. And if people get anything out of this book, I hope they hear that message, because I wrote this book mainly for myself first, because I needed to process some of these thoughts myself. And then as I travel and as I speak, I realize that there are so many people out there who are going through the same battles and going through the same struggles, and they think that they're alone. And if I could say anything first, it would be that you're not alone. The second thing I would just encourage you to do is to take a step. Even if it's a baby step, at least it's a step, at least you're going somewhere. And finally, I would say to have somebody around you, somebody that you are comfortable with and that you are willing to be accountable with, someone who's willing to ask you the tough questions. We need those people in our lives, because God doesn't ask us to do this life in seclusion. He asks us to do life with others, and I think that's so important.
So if we can help you with the process, as Peter was pointing out, you need to have someone around you. You need to have others with you. Don't try to go it alone. First of all, God's there to help, but others around you that you can share with, share your heart. Just be open, be vulnerable. That is an important part of healing. But if we can help you take that first step, you can talk to one of our prayer partners, you can call, you can just get on the phone and say, can you pray for me? Here's what I'm going through. I want to get onto the process of purity. I realize it's important. I realize that God's Word encourages me and commands that I get on that journey. How do I do it? We'd love to pray with you about that. So 1-866-273-4444 is the toll-free number. You can call 24 hours a day. You can talk to someone. And I'd encourage you also to get a copy of Peter's book. It's again called The Process of Purity, Living Our Lives as a Reasonable Act of Worship. And Peter, if people go to our website at crossroads.ca, we'll have a link to your website. Sure. But also you were mentioning that you want to do something if someone mentions 100 Huntley Street.
Yeah. You can order the book directly off of our website, and there's a spot in there that says coupons or codes. If you just want to type in there 100 Huntley Street, we can offer you free shipping on anything that you order with that code.
Right.
The book is also available at Chapters or Indigo across Canada as well.
Peter, thank you again.
Thank you, Ron. I really appreciate it.
Calgary. Actually, from the east, from Nova Scotia, by way of Calgary,
yes,
because that's where your roots are. And appreciate your ministry. God bless you and all He's called you to do.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right.